I mean, the platform we're on right now is revolutionary. Wall Street Silver, there was nothing like a group of well over 100,000 people that come together and share knowledge and information, you know? And so you're absolutely right there. I do think that's going to happen. And I think silver can explode for a couple different reasons: monetary fear and actual purchasing of goods that need to sort of catch up right now in the supply chain.
Joining us on Wall Street Silver today is our good friend Travis from the channel Economic Ninja, and we also have Shawn Khunkhun, the CEO of Dolly Varden. How are you guys doing today?
Awesome.
That's good. Shawn, how are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Kids are back in school, and it's time to get back at it here.
Perfect. Well, we're going to get right on into it. Travis, do you want to take it off?
Yeah, we were discussing currency wars. It looks like that's sort of the flavor of the season right now, as we go back to school, like Shawn was saying, and we start to go into a really interesting time where people are starting to go back inside. We might find a new season of, let's say, people, huddling in the cold and something exciting happening with, sniffles. But we also see people starting to slow down. We're seeing sales dropping in all kinds of different aspects, all kinds of issues with supply chains. And now with today, we're seeing cryptos get hit hard. Silver got hit hard. The Dow went down just a little bit, I think, in sympathy. But it's interesting as the petrodollar is starting to walk away. Things I think are really going to start heating up this month.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, Travis, because on the silver side in the precious metal space, in order for us to really get the world's attention, we need some of these other asset classes, this whole everything bubble, to start giving up. If you've got a bull market everywhere, we're not going to get the attention that we deserve. And as people keep messing around with the digital or paper price, it really takes us out of focus. So it's nice to see some of these other assets start to pull back. And the precious metal sector, silver was up like 44% last year alone. But as other things go down or don't go up as much, we're going to captivate the world's attention.
So for El Salvador, Travis, what happened with that today? Can you give us an update?
Yeah, actually, I think it's really exciting. Even if you're not invested in cryptocurrencies, this is exciting. Here you have a country that has decided, we use dollars, but let's mix it up a little bit. Let's do something a little different. We're already seeing this trend in cryptocurrency, the decentralized blockchain, not a digital currency that the central banks want you on. And let's make it legal tender. So now the president brought it up. Their Congress ratified it, and they have made it legal tender. Well, as of today was the day that every citizen in the country was going to receive $30 in Bitcoin. And to make it even better, because the media started attacking it real bad, they said, let's make it really fair. And if you really like dollars, we've got 200 ATMs nationwide set up right now that you can go take your $30 in Bitcoin and transfer it back into dollars. Wow. No transaction fees. So as of today, every merchant, they've already set it up to where the merchant processing has already been there, so they can take dollars or cryptocurrency, Bitcoin specifically. So, it was funny because when we were talking about this advancement, when I was in Miami, as a matter of fact, me and Jim were hanging out, and there's a lot of people that I know that have been in Bitcoin for a long time. And the talk was, all right, when are we going to buy houses? When are we going down on vacations? And there's a lot of people that are flying down right now to start spending their money in crypto. And today was that symbolic gesture of everyone that wanted to support El Salvador, the first country on earth to make Bitcoin legal tender. And this nice little smackdown happened. So I think it's very fitting. And what's really neat is because yesterday an official tweet came out from someone in the government saying we have just purchased 200 Bitcoin and the media goes, with taxpayer money? And they go, yeah, is there a problem with that? And it's like they're trying to destroy it. And today it goes down. They go, hey, thank you guys. We just bought another 100. And it's like, it's almost like shoving it back in the man's face going, it's cool. We got this. And I think it's incredibly exciting.
And Ninja, what it makes me think of, being in the exploration world, being on the hunt for silver and gold. So when I go back 13 years to 2008, and we got into the financial crisis, we were down in Mexico, and we were trying to get some exploration work done. Well, the U.S., the financial world is on fire. It's the fourth quarter of 2008. And all of a sudden in Mexico, on the ground, nobody wanted to take US dollars.
Yep.
And all they wanted was silver. And so I don't know, for whatever reason, that news out of El Salvador today brings me back to that moment where when the confidence goes in these currencies, the world is going to be looking for an alternative. And are you positioned in some of those alternatives, things that you just can't print to infinitum?
Yeah, it's interesting. That's a great story because back in 2008, the USD, and I think Lee can speak to this too. While I'm going, Lee, you might want to pull up some data, or you probably know it off the top of your head. But the USD wasn't like falling in value. It wasn't crashing in value in 2008. But the narrative was the most important part of the entire situation. So here you're down in Mexico, and people are saying, we don't want dollars. Now, we've seen that as recently as a couple of years ago, where around South American regions, they had signs in stores saying, we don't want your dollars. And it is very interesting because it's not only South America, the world right now is trying to push away from the dollar, and it's happening so fast. With
Ninja, to your point there. So you had the dollar index, and I'm going on memory, so I could be off a little bit, but I think the dollar index actually rose during that period of time. I think it went from 72 to like the mid 80s. Wow. But what is the dollar index? It's the euro, it's the yen, it's other currencies, right? Yep. But when we went into the real world, and people are saying we want something real that just you can't just print your way out of.
Yeah.
So I think we got to stop talking about the dollar so much. And the only reason I say that is because I think we're shifting to a phase where we're getting away from fiat. And I think El Salvador is kind of illustrative of that.
Yeah.
And then also, when we talk about the Chinese yuan, while that is a fiat currency, rumor has it that China is sitting on a lot of gold, and they've been acquiring a lot of gold to kind of support their financial system. So I think we're shifting to a new world. I mean, I know the central banks want to do CBDC. I think, obviously cryptos have been the narrative for a number of years. And I think eventually we're going to start seeing precious metals kind of regain the crown again.
So let me jump in there, Lee, because I think you're completely right that we're going away from dollars and we need to look at it that way. The fact, though, is very few people, such a small segment of the population, looks outside of fiat currencies. But true stories are, like you said, central banks like China and Russia are adding to their gold reserves. We've seen Iraq in the last 5 years really add to their gold reserves. But then we're seeing companies like Tesla and all the ones that we've spoken about recently where they're starting to pick up gold. Some companies even stating, hey, we're getting ready for a black swan. And it sounds so funny because it's right in your face. But the reality is very few people, even as this thing takes full hold and we go Depression 2.0, are going to reap the benefit of it because they're not paying attention to it right now.
I know you say that, very few people, but if you transport yourself back in time to the late 1990s when I first started getting into precious metals, it was like no one. Would you agree with that, Shawn?
Oh, 100%. I think back to even a little bit beyond the 90s, because really the central banks had their foot on the sell button up until about 99. So it was really, even up until about 2005, it felt like, I felt like I was in the desert here, right? And no one was around, and just echoes everywhere. But no, I think in 06, the world woke up to precious metals when gold first came from 400 to 700. Silver followed suit. But there's definitely like the billionaires that started positioning the Dalios and the Soroses of the world. We saw, with Basel III being announced in 2019, we saw the gold market break out of a 6-year sideways pattern. We saw silver do it last year. We've seen the Reddit community bring a little bit more attention to it with millennials and with some masses. But I think the point is, it's still underowned. If you look at it
very much so
in terms of a percentage of all financial assets globally, it's a rounding error. And I look at, you could put all the precious metals sector, all the physical, and what is it, like the market cap of Apple. So what excites me is the moment we start to see some of these larger indexes not continue to go up at the same rate, and they're probably going to keep going up because there's cheap money, there's easy money, there's low interest rates. But as soon as we start to see the sector outperform like it did in 2020, we're going to get more attention, and that community is going to get larger and larger and larger. And this time, with the speed of information, it's not going to be like the 70s, right? Things are going to happen much faster. And yeah, I hope for everybody out there listening, like it doesn't take much to get out there and spend $30 and get an ounce of silver.
That's a nice Sprott coin.
It is a nice Sprott coin. I actually just got this over the weekend, so I'm showing it off here. But yeah, it doesn't take a lot to get involved.
Hey, let me ask you guys a question. Do you foresee a situation maybe evolving here where we start seeing short sellers in the crypto market trying to kill it, just like we've seen in the silver market for so long?
100% yes. And actually, that's what happened today. Stop losses were triggered, and it's easy to find that. It could be manipulated because as many people that tout the decentralized nature of crypto, it is. The problem is because of the invention of and derivatives being allowed and all these fake markets like what is it, Robinhood, totally fake market for crypto. A lot of these third-party apps, they create a ton of volume and they create price discovery when in all reality, there's no actual crypto being traded. And that's what's sad. So it's not immune to that. But the facts are we can actually see real volume on the real exchanges that we know are actually tied to the blockchain. So a lot of it still can be smoke and mirrors. And yeah, there's going to be some spectacular ups and some even more spectacular downs in that market. But it's just
like we saw today with Bitcoin being down almost 12%.
Exactly. And really, if you think about it, it's nothing different than like the precious metals market. When you sit back and you see the paper price get smashed and you go try and buy an ounce and you're like, oh yeah. And literally it's just like that. When you all of a sudden go try and buy a physical ounce and all the stores are all, yeah, it's this much. I'm not selling it for that crap price. Yeah. But the reality is I can go onto an exchange right now and all of a sudden as it's coming down, I can't buy. There's an internet outage and it's fake. And so try and hit the real market on the crypto and try and buy something when it happens like that. It's pretty hard, especially
the commissions are pretty hefty on the crypto too. I mean, compared to what you can trade in stocks.
It really, it's just like stocks. You get what you shop for. The easier the platform, the more the derivatives, the cheaper it is. It really depends on what network you're on. If you're trying to buy an ERC20 token, Ethereum, gas fees can get expensive because of network clogging. So there's so many factors there, but it sounds funny. It's sad because the banks are slowly buying it all up and they are going to own that market. Unless you get to it first, just like the precious metals market. I mean, it was a much freer market way back when. I'm sure actually Shawn can probably speak to that. The history of precious metals before there were derivatives and the Hunt brothers and all that stuff, the paper markets before they were around, it was a much more easy way to get price discovery.
Yeah, absolutely. What's interesting to me this time around is, really it was illegal for, everyone in America to own precious metals up until really recently. And so you'd get, you had a few mining companies that you can go out and buy, but the choices today through the ETFs, the mining stocks, actually going out and legally being allowed to own precious metals again, the consumer does have a lot of choice today. Despite price manipulation, if you wanted to go out and get, digital metal, you can. Just be careful if you read the prospectus of the ETFs, right, and make sure you know what you're owning. And if you want to go that route, I would encourage investors buying PSLV, Sprott's physical product versus SLV, or going over to Kitco or one of these other metal dealers like Sprott to secure their physical metal.
Shawn, what's your silver price prediction short term?
How do you define short term, Ivan?
2022. Let's say 1 year.
Say 1 year. You know what? Again, I think silver's done so well this year. It's really, again, last year was the first year in 6 or 7 years we saw the price break out, and we saw it move 50% in a matter of weeks. It's held most of those gains all year round. I know we saw a little bit of weakness in early August. For me, again, leverage and the margins on these silver producers and these silver ounces in the ground. If we got into an environment, Ivan, where we had $30 to $35 silver, some of these mining stocks are going to double and triple.
Yeah.
I'm in the camp that, silver is one of the few asset classes that hasn't taken out its, it went to the 1980s high in 2011, $50, but we didn't take that out. And I can't think of an asset class on the planet that hasn't done that. So for me, it's just a question of getting through 50, 75, 100. I'm in the triple digit silver camp. But to answer your question, I could see, let's say $42 silver would be my target in 2022.
Travis, what's your target?
And I'm so glad you asked, Ivan. I think it's going to be crayon eating, Susan, before you think. I honestly believe we're going to see $30 crested before the first of the year. I'm really excited for that because that's going to be a psychological bump. It's like when Bitcoin hit 10 grand and then 50 grand, it just does something to people. And we've obviously seen a line in the sand, let's say, when it comes to anytime we're trying to bump right up underneath $29, it gets smacked down. I believe we're going to see that. I think that the supply chain, now this is going to probably throw this whole interview for a loop, and I apologize. The supply chain, when it heals itself and all of a sudden you're able to start seeing the manufacturing side be able to ramp back up again, I think you're going to see silver start to deplenish a little bit on the industrial side because they're going to start being able to build things again. Right now, manufacturing is stopped in a lot of sectors simply because of the chips. Well, we're not thinking about all the other materials that go into these cars or anything really that stops. So the second, copper's starting to have some issues, and when the manufacturing picks back up, I think we're going to see this really quick bit of demand in the metals, and I think it should really do a good thing to the price.
Ninja, I just want to jump in there. So I've got a colleague that sits on like a world copper think tank. So he's out there with all the biggest producers in the copper space.
Okay.
So when they look out, they're going, okay, look, there's no issue for copper supply this year or next year. But the problem is when you look out 5 years, it's a really frightening story. There's no supply. And the same is true in gold, and the same is true in silver. It's not a this year problem or a next year problem, but where are we going to get the supply in 3 years, 4 years, and 5 years? And you look at like the swing that's captured Peru, Chile, with some of the new political leaders there, and some of the ways they're approaching the mining sector with a real leftist, communist way to look. Nationalizations being talked about, higher taxes, expropriation. And you look at things that you need in mining, like water, local support. You look at some of the diminishing grades. That the further, like I've got a picture of our project in the back here. We're having to go to the mountaintops, the snowy, cold mountaintops, to get this stuff today because the low hanging fruit isn't there. So I'll tell you, the supply isn't there, and then you factor in all of this, money printing, you factor in the price appreciation of all these other assets classes. Mm-hmm. If there's any demand for this stuff, if demand just stays constant, we're going to see prices go through $100 on silver very, very, very soon.
I have a different take than both of you guys. I think we're headed for some serious economic road bumps ahead. I think the manufacturing is just going to grind to a halt. I think supply chain is going to grind to a halt. But at the same time, while I foresee some serious asset deflation, in equity markets, real estate, et cetera, I think precious metals are going to regain strength in that environment because people are really going to lose faith in governments and fiat currencies. So I
fully agree with you.
Angle. Yeah.
Lee, I fully agree with the deflationary story. I believe we're going to go deflation because inflation is taking up too much of everybody's pay. So they're going to have to stop buying certain goods. But then I believe that the central bank's knee-jerk reaction is going to be print, like crazy. And if that happens, I think that we could see, tons of money diving into all kinds of assets. And some of you guys have already hit it today. Yeah, there's a lot more education behind the general public now ever since the economy was shut down. They dove onto YouTube and dove into books and documentaries, and they wanted an answer. And so you're absolutely right. And the platform we're on right now is revolutionary. Wall Street Silver, there was nothing like a group of well over 100,000 people that come together and share knowledge and information. you know. And so you're absolutely right there. I do think that's going to happen, and I think silver can explode for a couple different reasons: monetary fear, and actual purchasing of goods that need to sort of catch up right now in the supply chain.
Lee, I agree with you in the short term, like in the next 18, 24 months. I think that you're 100% right. But then, silver's got two sides, right? And, the money side, the precious metal side, the same side that's going to put a bid under gold on a relative basis. Like, again, when I look at silver and it's gone down a few dollars an ounce over the last 9 months, right, from its highs, right? But on a relative basis, it's outperformed a lot of other assets that have gone down more. So I'm not convinced that silver is going up quickly. I just don't think, even in the type of environment that you describe over in the short term, I still think it'll hold its purchasing power quite well relative to things that are falling faster.
I don't disagree with that point at all.
And then on the back half, I think that when we do get some growth, whether that's 2 or 3 years from now, because we do have this, the power of the millennials that are going to pick up the slack in a few years. Then silver will go up for the industrial component as well as the monetary.
Yeah, I want to thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you, Travis. Shawn, thank you so much for coming down to Wall Street Silver.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys.
We'll talk to you guys soon.